Congregation, please rise.
My sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. I really want to see you, really want to be with you, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord, my sweet Lord. My Lord, my Lord, really want to know you, really want to go with you, I really want to show you, Lord, that it won't take long, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord. My sweet Lord, I really want to see you, really want to see you, really want to see you, Lord. I really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord. My Lord, I really want to know you, really want to go with you, I really want to show you, Lord, that it won't take long, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. My sweet Lord, my sweet Lord, my sweet Lord.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Unity Church-Unitarian. I'm Karen Herring, and I welcome you to this memorial hour in which we shall celebrate the life of Jim Neher and honor and mourn his death last February. We gather here at Unity Church-Unitarian in St. Paul, Minnesota, where Jim and Kate claimed this as their spiritual home many decades ago. And we gather online to include those of you who cannot be here in person. We welcome you all today for this time outside of time, made holy by our attention and our presence in person and online, and by the presence of grief and loss sitting side by side with love and life. We gather today to honor Jim's legacy as one who worked devotedly for justice and fairness, and who loved devotedly as well, cherishing his family and his ever-growing circle of friends. To those of you who are here in person, we extend the family's invitation to join them in Parish Hall after the service for a reception of food and fellowship and more stories about Jim's life, as well as a slideshow of photos from his many years. So today, we light the chalice now for this sacred gathering in time, remembering a life devoted to love, to learning, to fairness, to helping others with kindness, as well as his deep expertise as an attorney, to making and keeping many friendships with people and with animals. Let us light the chalice today for all this and more as we remember Jim Neher. Our hymn is number 100 in the gray hymnal. We will sing verses 1 through 3 and verse 5. Please rise for the singing. Please remain standing for the responsive reading printed in your order of worship. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as they live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Please be seated. As we gather today in gratitude for Jim's life, we also give voice to our sorrow and give shape to the farewell that now must finally be said. We gather today bringing perhaps questions that accompany our sorrow. Why did we have to lose Jim so soon? Why now, when he wanted so much to keep on living, and when we who loved him had hoped he would be with us longer? The questions linger in our grief, and though this gathering of remembrance, love, and honor offers no simple answers, surely it unveils a deeper knowing that the spirit of life rings out even in the silences of death, that the suffering Jim experienced in his illness is now over, and that the goodness that was within him will be his guardian forevermore. We learn from death the preciousness of life, the lasting nature of love that grows beyond it. And in this and every loss, we are asked to let grief teach us, to name and honor what was good and unique in our loved one, and to make room in our own lives to carry those values on, to live them out in the world as our true inheritance from Jim and as his lasting legacy. Perhaps this is the most basic lesson grief has to teach us: to open ourselves to the embrace of love that reaches beyond the physical presence of our loved ones and that holds us, comforts us, even guides us when they are gone. Loss itself teaches us what it means to be alive, just as love itself teaches us that letting go is the necessary requirement of carrying one so dearly within our heart. I also want to name today that new grief often awakens older grief. Losses of loved ones who died recently or long ago, as well as the sorrows present in this pandemic time. Do not be afraid of grief's return and its lingering. Find your own ways of befriending grief, and it will help you carry the sorrows of this time, as well as your memories of Jim and other dear ones no longer with you. Grief can be a doorway to the loving presence of our ancestors, both ancestors by blood and ancestors by choice, those whose lives illuminated and blessed our own. Please join me now in a moment of silence, in tribute and in welcome to all beloved ancestors waiting on the doorsteps of our hearts to join us on this day. And will you pray with me? Holy One, known by so many names and beyond all naming, Spirit of life and love, moving within, among, and beyond us, we give thanks for the life of Jim Neher and for the love and friendship and commitment he shared so generously with so many. As we devote this holy time to sharing stories from his life, may we not leave our sorrow behind too quickly. May our hearts, opened by grief, remain open long enough for his gifts to find their own place in our lives. That his love of people, of life, and of furry friends alike, and his gentle way of being, and his commitment to making the world more fair, will continue on in our own stories. Open our hearts today and always to these and other cherished blessings that Jim shared in his life, his companionship, and his being. May it be so, and amen. It is our custom and tradition here at Unity Church, in doing a memorial service, to assemble a collage of voices, memories told by you who knew the one who died, and recall for this assembled group your love and affection and respect for him. So today I offer you this collage of voices written by some of you here today and others who are not able to be present. These words from Marty Rarig that appear on the page as a bit of a poem. A friend whom I had for 40 years, always true to his word, saw the best in people, a man of integrity, loving his family and life. From Kathy Olson Studler. I will always remember Jim as a kind, compassionate, caring, and intellectual human being. I will forever be grateful to Jim and Kate for opening their hearts and their home, to Carmen Sara from Spain, who came to live with them while working as a Spanish amity intern at St. Paul Academy and Summit School. Carmen has such great memories of sharing life with Jim and Kate. Jim was a great friend to so many. He will be sorely missed. From Sue and Larry Savitt. We met Jim and Kate over 45 years ago when they moved into our neighborhood on Bayard Avenue. Our two kids were about the same age as theirs, and they became playmates. We found that we liked Jim and Kate as well, and our relationship continued after we moved to our current home, not very far away. We have remained friends all these years because of shared interests and values. Jim was a true gentleman in every sense of the word, with emphasis on gentle. One example is how he dealt with our different views on things political. He was always respectful of our opinions. These conversations were never contentious, although neither he nor we changed our minds. And we enjoyed our dinners out together, most of them at Broder's Pasta Bar, where Jim and Kate knew the entire wait staff. As Jim's health needs changed, Kate took great care to find a home that would meet each of their needs. Although he was not able to live at Carondelet very long, we know it was just the right place. From Julia Whalen. Mr. Neher, Jim, was a neighbor and was friends with my parents. I will remember him always as friendly Mr. Neher. I never could get used to calling adults by their first names. After pretty much losing touch over the years, we reconnected. Mr. Neher wanted to have his granddaughter, Olivia, take riding lessons, and he knew I had horses. I was able to connect him with someone I know, and at 72 years old, Mr. Neher took lessons with Olivia. I believe Olivia was 3 at the time, making them both the oldest and youngest lesson people my friend had ever taught. From a good friend in Santa Fe, Larry Dalrymple. Jim was a good conversationalist, easily engaging new people he just met, whether at the dinner table or elsewhere. Jim was a natty dresser. His clothing always appeared pressed, fresh, and his colors were well coordinated. He also paid close attention to his hair, and it appeared he just stepped out of the barber shop. Jim was very interested in the Veterans Memorial located in the Baton Building in Santa Fe and its history, as well as the history of Native American, Spanish, and Anglo in New Mexico. He always found some volunteer work while in the area, and he will be missed by many of us. From Susan Ora. Both Mom and Dad were so fond of both Jim and Kate. Dad considered Jim one of his closest friends. It is remarkable that my parents celebrated your marriage with you when you eloped in Chicago. Jim was making friends to the very end. These were messages that came from his medical care team. This from the care team in general. All of us extend prayers and sympathy. Jim was a very special patient, always kind and gentle, asking others about their day and their planned vacations. From a favorite nurse of his, I will miss chatting with Jim. It was a pleasure to know him and to hear his happy voice. And from one of his doctors, it was a privilege to be Jim's doctor. I will miss his smile and positive attitude. This from Libby Ivanoff. I am a close friend of Jim's daughter, Katie. I met Katie in college and was introduced to her mom and dad shortly after, as they would often visit Katie in Winona, where we attended school. After college, Katie and I continued our friendship as we both lived in the Twin Cities. Katie's parents have always been a big part of her life and her kids' lives. As young adults, I remember going with Katie and her kids to visit her parents at their home in St. Paul. Her parents' home was always a bright and cheerful place, and Jim had a lot to do with that. I remember walking in the door, and Jim would always greet me with a spirited hello, a big smile on his face, and that's how I remember him today. From Tibor Gallo, one of Jim's colleagues. I loved Jim's low-key sense of humor. I am very impressed with his talents. Jim spent his legal career in public service to the Attorney General of Minnesota. Jim was definitely a credit to his community. From Judy Frayling. As their financial planner, I worked with Jim and Kate on their investments and tax preparation for roughly 30-plus years. I just want to note that Jim's specialty was tax litigation, so this was something for him to turn to someone for expertise in this. Judy says, needless to say, we got to know one another pretty well. Jim was always friendly, kind, and understanding when we would discuss financial matters and other issues. He asked prudent questions and often followed through with my suggestions about money, investment allocation, and tax planning. There were many times when we would spend maybe 20 minutes talking business and then spend the next 2 hours chatting away about life, family, social issues, and whatever else crossed our minds. I truly enjoyed working with Jim, and he will be dearly missed. From Barry Greller. Reading of Jim's love of feathered friends in his obituary reminded me of this story. Jim and Kate had a beloved parrot for many years. Jim's young son, Carl, thought it would be funny to teach the bird some foul language, pun intended. Whenever Kate heard the bird swearing, she would scold it, saying, "No, no, no." One day, when Kate had a group of women over, they suddenly heard the bird screeching, "F you, F you," followed by Kate's voice saying, "No, no, 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 no." One woman exclaimed, "What did he just say?" Kate did her best, unconvincingly, to explain it away as something else. From Jennifer LeClaire. I am a longtime friend of Jim's daughter, Katie. Jim Neher was one of the kindest people I have ever known. He was funny, sometimes without meaning to be, and had the ability to laugh at himself more easily than at others. He was both everlastingly patient and easily rattled. Jim and Kate each made space in their hearts and their home. And at the dinner table for my daughter and me, and even took Julia on vacation, Jim touched our lives and the lives of so many others. He was a great advocate for animals and supported those working to do away with puppy mills. Jim was an amazing spouse and father. He was a fantastic Da, as his grandkids, Dom and Olivia, call him. And he gushed with love for them. He was devoted to his brilliant wife, Kate, and modeled how to be both committed and true to himself. Go Vikings. Jim was kind enough to hire me when I returned to college later in life to complete some yard work and tasks around the house. We had a lot of fun sculpting the hedges in the front yard and hoping to get them just right. I enjoyed it when he became so confident with it that he did it without me. He was always positive, encouraging, generous, and grateful. He made me feel good about myself and what I added to the world. Jim will be sincerely missed. May the legacy of his kindness and authenticity live on through all of those he touched. From Janelle Abbott. As a friend of Katie's, I remember her dad always being friendly with a smile on his face and always greeting me, "Hi, Jolene. My name is Janelle." From Morella in Mazatlan, Mexico. I have warm memories of Jim, a kind, caring, compassionate man whom I met in Mazatlan, Mexico about 15 years ago. He and Kate joined our group of expats, Americans and Canadians who came together to help many street animals in Mazatlan by having fundraisers to cover the costs of spaying and neutering the too many homeless animals, mainly cats, and to set up feeding programs to look after the various cat colonies. Jim was a dog person, so when he was in Mazatlan, he would go 3 times a week to walk the dogs in the animal shelter there. Amigos de los Animales shelter was always looking for volunteers, and Jim was there to fill the need, along with others. He gave each dog his full love and attention during the walks. He gave them the human touch they so wanted and needed. From Barb Fritz, Jim's first cousin. I remember going to Sonen's pet shop with Jim to buy tropical fish for his enormous aquarium, which was in the dining room where we could watch the fish. We also often went to family lake vacations together. Having a great time, we named an outhouse that was perched atop a high hill as the Eagle Nest. And from Mimi Culligan, a friend. Jim was kind and brilliant man with a lovely sense of humor and sharp wit. My father, Bob Culligan, was honored to be his friend. Bob and Jim's friendship was a gift that lasted a lifetime. My parents were attendants at Jim and Kate's wedding. Years later, when my father knew he was starting to lose his memory, he made a list of his 7 best friends. Jim's name was at the top of the list. When Jim would walk into the memory care unit to visit, Bob's Irish eyes would light up the room. Pure love. I am eternally grateful for Jim's divine presence in our lives, a truly kind and gentle man. Godspeed. And this from his granddaughter, Olivia, who there's excerpts from a list of 100 reasons why I love you that she sent to Jim in the last month of his life. Reason number 1, you let me win at Crazy 8. You listen to me. You're an animal lover. You would read to me. You always included me. You're brave. You're reliable. You encourage me to learn new things. You show me what unconditional love is. You're genuinely interested in my life. I can be myself with you. Your family is the most important thing to you. You give me the best advice. You protected me. You're the world's best da ever. Thank you all for sharing those memories with us.
Although you see the world different than me, sometimes I can touch upon the wonders that you see. All the new colors and pictures you've designed. Oh yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine. Child of mine, child of mine. Oh yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of You don't need direction, you know which way to go. And I don't want to hold you back, I just want to watch you grow. You're the one who taught me you don't have to look behind. Oh, yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine. Child of mine, child of mine. Oh, yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine. Nobody's gonna kill your dreams or tell you how to live your life. There'll always be people who make it hard for a while, but you'll change their heads when they see you smile. The times you were born in may not have been the best, but you can make the times to come better than the rest. I know you will be honest if you can't always be kind. Oh, yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine. Child of mine, child of mine. Oh, yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine. Child of mine, child of mine. Oh, yes, sweet darling, so glad you are a child of mine.
Such a beautiful, fitting song, remembering Jim. Jim Neher was a child of St. Paul. His early life in the Highland Park neighborhood marked by both loss and by many blessings. His father, Dr. Frederick Neher, died when he was just 3 years old. But his kind and quiet mother, Cecilia Kilbane Neher, was a steady and loving influence. And when she remarried 5 years later, his honorable and gentlemanly stepfather, Harry Nonemacher, was also helped Jim grow beyond his early loss to enjoy a happy and comfortable childhood. With his brother Fred Neher and stepbrothers Vincent and Harry, Jim shared a home nested in community, a neighborhood replete with victory gardens and neighbors who looked after one another's children and dogs, who shared time and sometimes even vacations together. From those early years, Jim had 2 childhood friends that would last his whole lifetime. Little wonder, then, that he grew into a man who made friends easily, even in his final days, befriending neighbors at the Carondelet village where he and Kate moved just months before his death, and befriending many of his caregivers, as we heard in the collage of voices. Little wonder, too, that he became a husband, father, and grandfather who cared so deeply for and about his family. He was passing on to you, his loved ones, what he had been generously given as a child. He was smart as well as kind. After graduating from St. Paul Academy in 1954, he went on to Harvard and graduated cum laude in 1959. After college, he returned to the Twin Cities and served in the National Guard as a medic while working his first professional job at 3M. In Minneapolis, he met a young Kate Mura, when she and her roommate, who were flight attendants just moving here from Chicago, arrived at their new apartment. Jim and his roommate met their new neighbors and quickly befriended the two women by carrying their bags up to their apartment. The rest, perhaps we shall say, is history. Eventually, Jim and Kate began dating, and when Jim was later transferred to Chicago by 3M, Kate's work as a flight attendant allowed her to visit frequently and the two of them to continue dating. In early 1962, both of them then 26 years old, and their relationship on a solid grounding of love, Kate and Jim decided to elope. Kate explains, "We thought it was a good idea, and we were old enough to know what we were doing." Father Peter, who was a Paulist priest from Old St. Mary's Church in Chicago, agreed and performed their ceremony in the chapel there with two family friends, Nancy and Bob Culligan, and just one other person present, an older woman unknown to Kate and Jim, who likely had just come to the chapel to pray. This quiet wedding also allowed Kate to continue working as a flight attendant for another year, which was a job that at that time was limited to unmarried women. A year later, 3M again transferred Jim, this time back to the Twin Cities. Kate left her job as a flight attendant then, and as they prepared to move back, the two broke the news to their parents that they had been married in Chicago. That was a hard moment, Kate says, seeing your parents' heartbreak over not sharing the joy of your wedding with you. And yet, in the way of your family, that heartbreak healed as you all just kept sharing and loving each other. Kate and Jim took several years to settle into St. Paul before starting a family, first with Carl's arrival in 1967, and then Katie's in 1970. You two were the apple of your father's eye. And in those early years of raising their two beloved children, both Jim and Kate went back to school. Kate pursued her bachelor's degree at the University of Minnesota with the help of a graduate student's wife who babysat Carl while Kate was in class. She had to choose her classes in registration based on when the babysitter was available. And Jim studied law at William Mitchell in night classes while still working full-time by day at 3M. These were busy and demanding years, well supported by Jim's mother and family and friends in their St. Paul neighborhood, all of whom helped out with Katie and Carl. When Jim graduated from law school, he began working in the Attorney General's office, where he remained for 36 years of public service until retiring in 2008. He loved his work there. As a trial attorney representing the state and specializing in tax litigation, a highlight of his career was a federal case that originated in Minnesota and ended successfully in the U.S. Supreme Court. Jim loved the strategy of trial work, the challenge of understanding the facts and drawing a conclusion from them. He was happy when he did his work. Carl remembers being a youngster riding in the back seat of the car as his dad told him the details of a case and then asked Carl to repeat the facts back to him, perhaps Jim was listening for new insights as he heard Carl's young voice reciting the story back in new words. Jim's was a career marked by many successes, but perhaps known best, as was his personal life, by his trademark helpfulness, fair-mindedness, and kindness that so many quickly name in remembering him today. He was easygoing, one of you said to me, adding that everyone liked him for his genuineness and his humility. In a professional role surrounded by politics, he focused on his work and stayed above the fray, which earned him the respect of many. He liked to listen to others, especially when he didn't agree with them, a lesson he taught by example to his children and grandchildren, and no doubt a good number of the people he listened to. There were many such things he taught you, his children and grandchildren. Reading to you at bedtime, coaching and attending events at your schools, attending hockey and basketball and all different kinds of games, and driving Olivia an hour each way to horseback riding lessons. There were family vacations and camping trips, canoeing and skiing, favorite meals he cooked like orange chicken, and of course his love of finned and feathered and furry friends. There was always a family dog, or gerbils, birds, fish. He was indulging his children's wishes, and as it sounds, most likely his own as well. In retirement, when he and Kate regularly vacationed in Mazatlan, Mexico, as we heard earlier, he volunteered 3 times a week to walk the stray dogs. Everywhere along the way, traveling and close to home, in partnership with Kate, over 60 years of loving marriage, always making new friends and keeping the old ones, always learning and teaching to the very end. For the last 6 months of his life, Olivia, you told me he texted you a word of the day with a definition. Always a word you didn't know, you said. And then he would call you and ask you to repeat it back and use it in a sentence. What a beautiful gift. Clearly, he was not ready to say goodbye to you, his many loved ones in his family and beyond. He relished his time with you, and he wanted more of it. But the seasons were turning. As the old words say, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to reap that which is planted, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. After living 10 years with a failing heart, this past year, Jim's strength finally really began to wane. By the end of last summer, the stairs in your family home on Bayard Avenue became too much. And Kate, you managed somehow on your own to get the 2 of you moved into Carondelet Village. No small task. But there was a place where Jim no longer had to contend with the stairs, and where the community and the services there embraced both of you in the final days and moments of his life. After several hospitalizations, it was there at Carondelet in hospice care in early February, as Jim moved in and out of consciousness, that he spoke his last words, almost shouting them out in his determination that you, his family, would hear them loud and clear, saying, "I love you all." And then he returned to silence. The next day, shortly after Carl arrived to join Kate at his side, Jim died, finally letting go of the world and of you, his dear ones, whom he loved so. Now that love is ours to carry, but especially so for you, his loved ones, Kate and Carl and Katie and Olivia and Dom. You were his treasures. His love is yours now to treasure, yours to share generously with others as he did with you, remembering he will always be with you, remembering his love will never end. So may it be, and amen.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late.
Friends, loved ones, and colleagues, neighbors, and those who knew and loved Jim. For every time we have received his gentle kindness, for every lesson in love and fairness, for every time we've been listened to with attention and respect, may we now carry that with us and share it with a world so eager to be heard, to be loved, to be touched by kindness. May it be so, and amen.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.